Donald Trump, a racist, a bigot, a great leader, or just a man? It doesn't matter how Americans perceive the former hotel tycoon, he's now their president. And now, over the new year, I find myself with the opportunity to visit the battlegrounds myself. After this year's controversial Brexit vote, where many of the younger generation in Britain felt betrayed by the older generation for wanting out of Europe, I wanted to know how the college-educated in America felt about their new president being voted in. Initial exit polls provided by the New York Times, CNN and The Guardian show a clear trend of voters between the ages of 18 and 30 voting in favour of Clinton, from 55 to 36%. I want to know why this was the case. Why did college students overlook Clinton's controversies? Why didn't they trust Trump? And did they have enough knowledge when going to the polls to vote for their new leader? So I've decided to take a trip to Kansas to look at the monumentous election. But first, a little on how Donald Trump came to be the 45th President of the United States. When going to the polls after the primary elections have decided each party's candidate, Americans vote for an electorate, not just the person they want as the president. To win the race, unlike in the UK where the candidate must win the most votes to win, each state has a number of electoral college votes governed by the state's representation in Congress. To win, Trump only had to win over half the electoral college votes. For example, a larger state like California contains a possible 35 votes, whereas Kansas only has 6. Trump didn't win the popular vote, but won in key states with large electoral colleges to gain power. Many states, especially in the Midwest, have a long history of voting habits. Kansas itself has voted Republican for the past 14 years. This ingrained sense of voting for the same party has made for a two-horse race in each election in living history between the Democrats and the Republicans. It'll be interesting to see whether students feel an independent vote was a waste. Manhattan, Kansas is a sleepy college town embedded in America's homeland Midwest. The town of 52,831 swells each year with an influx of students arriving to study at Kansas State University. Nicknamed the Little Apple, after their New York namesake, this small town couldn't be any more different to the bustling streets 1,200 miles away. The town is nestled on the Kansas and Big Blue Rivers in a valley stemming from the Flint Hills. It's here in the quiet hometown America where I've decided to interview students across campus to gauge and learn why they and their peers voted against Trump. I wanted to interview as wide a range of students as possible, so I went down to the K-State Student Union bar where I met Erica and Ben. Later that evening, I met with Casey Wilson, who invited me back to her apartment to interview herself and her boyfriend about their voting habits. Finally, I caught up with Hannah Henderson to talk about the recent election. All of the students interviewed came from a multitude of backgrounds, studying different subjects, from architecture to engineering. At first, I wanted to ask the students the biggest question on my mind.
This past one? Hillary Clinton.
I voted independent for Gary Johnson.
I voted for Hillary.
Who did you vote for?
Bernie Sanders.
Okay, and what was the main reason behind that?
He follows a lot of I follow a lot of his viewpoints and what he was talking about, and I couldn't quite find a full connection with the other electors that were be voted for.
Yeah.
Did you vote
for anyone? Or
No, I didn't.
okay, why is that?
Because I'm actually registered in Kansas City, but because I live here in Manhattan as a student and the election fell on a Tuesday, it was hard for me to make it back to Kansas City to actually vote.
So why didn't you vote for Donald Trump?
I couldn't bring myself to vote for him, especially everything that he's saying about women. I couldn't bring myself to it. Even though Kansas is a Republican state and I knew he was going to win Kansas, I couldn't help that.
I just didn't like Donald Trump
Okay.
very much. And Hillary, of course, she had downfalls. Of course, there were a lot of scandals about her and things like that. But at least she had the political experience, years and years of experience. Her husband was a president.
I don't think that Trump has America's best interests at heart. I think that he voted because he saw an opportunity and he saw that people were scared and took advantage of that. I mean, I can't say that I can judge his character because I don't know him as a person.
So obviously you voted for Bernie Sanders, but he wasn't the leading.
I know.
member of the party, so you voted for Hillary Clinton.
I did not vote for Hillary
But you
Clinton,
did
but I
vote.
kind of did in an indirectly, yes.
Okay, and why didn't you vote for Hillary Clinton?
Just because of the fact that I don't know enough about her to trust her. It's like everyone says they're politicians, you can't trust any politician, but that's the difference between someone like Trump who won and if he isn't a politician. And I think that's interesting to take the aspect of someone who finally isn't a politician won.
Traditional
Yeah.
politician. So why didn't you vote for independent?
I mean, I registered as independent, but I just think that third-party voting is kind of a waste of a vote, and I didn't want to waste my vote.
I just couldn't bring myself to vote for Hillary or Trump because I didn't like either of them. But a lot of people said that if you vote independent, it's a waste of a vote. And I didn't really believe that. I figured, why vote for the less of two evils?
I think
So in that case, why didn't you vote independent?
because in this country voting independent is a throwaway.
Right.
And I think that's part of the problem too, is when you have to pick between being poisoned or being shot, it's hard to decide which is worse sometimes, you know, it's like being stuck between a rock and a hard place.
How much of an impact do you think Trump's going to have in 4 years? You know, it sounds like there'd be more of an impact coming from the state. Do you think Trump's going to have a big enough impact that you all get personally going to feel in the next 4 years?
Me personally, probably not, but a lot of Americans I feel will.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people that they just now qualified to get Obamacare, and a lot of people just got their Obamacare stuff all taken care of, and then Donald Trump's going to come in and do everything he can to get rid of this healthcare program, and so that's going to affect a lot of people, not so much me as an individual.
Yes. I don't know if it'll be good or bad, but I think he'll have an impact, especially since he doesn't believe in global warming.
Right, will that affect you specifically, college kids? Will you guys have more jobs to go into leaving college, or?
I don't know. He wants to open a lot of jobs in America, so that could benefit us.
A lot.
A lot?
Tremendous.
Okay, in what areas do you think he'll impact the most?
I mean, I can honestly respect that he is a businessman. He's been in debt before he got out of debt. But there's so many aspects to it. There's international relations, there's our own domestic relations, there's education, there is there's a plethora of things.
Yeah.
And something that's really scary that's going on right now is the education that the people he's appointing for that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of scary.
And I think Trump will change a lot within his, because I think he's going to realize while he's in office he can't use any of his former opinions that he could as a businessman to change the way that he rules the country, because then that becomes a dictatorship, and that's not what we are. And I think he will impact us in a way that it's not going to be as drastic as everyone thinks. I think people think an apocalypse is coming for us, but it really is just, there's going to be minor changes of whether or not Obamacare will stay in as a thing. It's going to change whether or not we just keep funding to our environment and everything like that.
I don't know. I don't think that Trump has enough experience in Washington to know how anything really works, and I think maybe he's starting to realize that. Honestly, with what kind of policy he's trying to push, we could see an economic growth, which I hate to say it, but cutting regulation, especially corporate regulation, they're going to be able to get away with more, and they're going to be making money.
Looking at exit data from the election, it's clear younger voters favoured Hillary Clinton, while older voters favoured Trump. Of voters aged 18 to 29, 55% voted for Clinton compared with 37% for Trump. Of those aged 30 to 44, on the other hand, 50% voted for Clinton compared with 42% for Trump. What's also clear is that the college-educated clearly favoured Clinton. This result is mirrored in the people I interviewed at K-State. With so many strong opinions held about the politicians in question, I next wanted to know whether the students had enough knowledge when they went to the polls to vote.
But do you think college kids as a whole
No.
have enough knowledge?
I mean, I'll tell you the truth, I really don't consider myself that educated.
Right.
I understand the general gist of policies,
Yeah.
but I can't claim that I know them. I mean, I don't know how Obamacare works. I just know that it provides health care to people that need it for the cost that they can afford. And I understand that, especially in Europe, those ideas that paying a little more to help everyone is just something that's rooted in you. You're like, of course I'll be willing to pay a little more, because at the end of the day, we're all Englishmen or we're all Frenchmen, you know? And there's going to be some complaining, I understand that. But don't come to me claiming to be proud of being an American when you're unwilling to help anyone in this country besides yourself.
Yes. Like I said, I think people just vote for their party. They don't research or anything. And it's so hard to, especially with the media, it's so hard to be knowledgeable about the election. And they were trashing Hillary too, but towards the end it was all Trump. And Gary Johnson was never mentioned in the news once. Towards the end he was in a few polls and, you know, he only had a few percentages of votes. So that kind of made a lot of people feel like, why should I vote for him if, you know, he has no chance of winning?
I think it's terrifying. People voted for Harambe.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that they should be penalized. I know it's their right to vote. I know it's their right to vote stuff in. But if you can't make a mature, educated decision with an actual candidate, then I don't think you should be able to vote, honestly. It's pretty much like not voting. You're wasting a vote.
A lot of people hear comments from other people, and it's just like the game of telephone.
Yeah.
Everything gets changed, and so what you're hearing from one person, like, get the facts, know what you're doing, and I think that helps a lot in any aspect of millennials trying to, like, change the world, trying to make any difference in anything. Voting helps a lot. Like, honestly, just know what you're talking about, know what you're doing before you say anything.
Absolutely not. Because, yeah, Hillary won the popular vote, yet Trump was elected president. So, that, I feel, a lot of that is due to people not knowing who they're voting for when they vote for state and local government, and then they turn around and vote the opposite way of their people.
So in reality, there's only ever going to be two candidates that are going to go for the election.
Correct.
Do you think that needs to change?
I think it would be nice to change.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of people, they voted for Trump just because they didn't want to vote for Hillary. Just like I voted for Hillary because I didn't want to vote for Trump.
You felt your vote would be wasted on an independent.
Right.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people that voted on the independents, but again, that was only like, what, 3% of what the actual votes were, so it's like there's no way that, again, you're throwing your vote away. You might as well have voted for Harambe like 13,000 people did.
Yes. I'm not opposed to the idea of an electoral college because I understand why it's in place, but I think that the vote should be proportional to the population of the state.
I think a lot of people are realizing that the two-party system isn't working. I think Bernie Sanders really helped with that. And I think a lot of college students love Bernie Sanders, and he woke a lot of people up. Personally, I liked him too, but I don't know if I would have voted for him. I think everyone here is very conservative and religious, and they're more of Republican values over Democrat. A lot of people did not like Hillary in Kansas. She didn't stand a chance here.
So people that voted for Trump, do you think they're quite quiet about the fact they voted for him, or do you think they're quite proud and they're willing to let everyone know?
I think both. I think a lot of people are embarrassed about voting for him because they know that he has a very bad rep in the media, and people are very judgmental on who you vote in the elections.
Well, surprisingly, a lot of people I know voted for Trump that go to K-State. It's just that they didn't talk about it until the election came about. They were scared to talk about it because they were afraid to be ridiculed. So
I don't think so. I think a lot of people that I've talked to are, I think most people that I've talked to are very open about their opinions. And a lot of the people that I talked to that have voted for Trump voted for him because it represented a America that they wanted. His slogans, "Make America Great Again," and it's this dream and this image of like a better, richer, like, I think it's the idea of he has these big, bright lights in the sky and he goes, this is what's going to happen, and that catches people's eye.
I know a few during like election time they were really into saying, oh yeah, I voted for Trump, like, yeah. And now I think they're kind of starting to die down a little bit because they realize that he may not be what they thought he was.
Finally, do you think you'll ever be able to vote for Trump if he ran again?
if he ran again, I would have to see how he does in the next 4 years. I think that from already the evaluations of him being president-elect, no. I don't think he'll change much. I don't think he'll grow.
What would he have to do to change your mind?
Oh my goodness. He would have to just become a whole different person, and that's not going to happen. So, I mean, he could keep his name, but he'd yeah, no, it would not happen. I'd vote for someone else.
I've changed a lot on my opinion of him. I at first went in with very little knowledge of what he wanted to do, and I still disagree with a lot of things. He's very against any sort of birth control or anything like that, and I think that's his opinion, and I think that also has to do with the religion coming into play, but I don't know necessarily if I would vote for him again, or like I didn't vote for him, but I don't think I would go out and vote for him. I just think it's two different perspectives, two different people. I have a very different outlook on how I think our world should look, and I think I want to get there with Trump as a president.
You definitely have to prove that he is actually here to help and care about the citizens of the United States, and that he's not just there to like make money or, you know, make his friends rich or whatever. I mean, obviously there are a lot of things that you can't fix in 4 years, but there are steps that you can take, that long-term programs that could be instilled that could work over time.
I think if Trump was running against anyone else, I don't think he would have won, because so many people, especially my family, didn't like Hillary Clinton. They just didn't want another Clinton in the White House.
So finally, do you think it's scary that the president can be voted in, right, everyone having the correct knowledge to make the right decision? Like they're not making an informed decision because they don't know the facts. Is that scary to you?
I think it is scary. Yeah, I think it's really scary that people vote based off of their feelings and not based off of fact or reason. And I think that a lot of people still don't recognize the power that we have as Americans to vote. I'm sure that the people that founded this country would be ashamed to see that the voter turnout is 40%. And I feel like I don't even have room to talk because I didn't vote. And I feel really bad about it. I'm actually really worried about where this country is going to be going.
After my time at Kansas State University and the Midwest in general, it's clear that many, if not all students, felt like they didn't have enough knowledge when going to the polls to vote. While students such as Erica felt that Donald Trump could have a positive impact on America, the general consensus was that Trump would struggle to make a sizable impact on the millennial generation leaving college. Everybody did agree, though, that voting independent seemed like a waste of a vote in today's two-party system. A system that a lot of students want to change. It'll be extremely interesting to see how Trump's first year in office goes, and I really look forward to catching up with the people I've interviewed in this package to gauge their reactions to Trump's first actions as president. For now though, all we can do is look and learn from one of the world's largest superpowers. This has been Robert Tunley for Jam Live News from Manhattan, Kansas.